Brad Keselowski stayed silent while rumors spread across the garage. What were NASCAR officials so afraid RFK Racing was about to unleash? Brad Keselowski is not known for reacting quickly or speaking without purpose. When he finally addressed the growing speculation around RFK Racing, the Stage 60 project, and the pursuit of a third charter, it marked the end of a long silence that had only fueled concern inside the NASCAR garage. For months, rumors had circulated quietly among team executives, manufacturers, and series officials. RFK was planning something. The only question was how big it really was. To understand why this moment matters, you have to understand what RFK Racing represents today. This is not the same organization that limped through the final years of the Roush era. When Brad Keselowski joined as a driver owner, he inherited a proud but diminished team. The facilities were outdated. The engineering approach had fallen behind. The competitive results no longer matched the history attached to the name. Keselowski did not rush to fix everything at once. He rebuilt RFK slowly, deliberately, and quietly. The early years were about survival and credibility, improving weekly performance, attracting better talent, convincing Ford that RFK was worth deeper investment again. Those steps worked. The cars became more consistent. Wins returned. The organization stopped being viewed as a legacy brand living on reputation and started being treated as a serious competitive operation again. That foundation is what made the Stage 60 project possible. The phrase Stage 60 did not appear in public until internal leaks forced discussion, but those inside the sport understood it as a reference point rather than a slogan. RFK had completed the early stages of its rebuild. Infrastructure was modernized, personnel was upgraded, competitive relevance had returned. Stage 60 represents the next phase, the moment where stability turns into leverage. At the center of that plan is a third charter. Charters are the currency of modern NASCAR. They guarantee entry, revenue sharing, and long-term security. Over the past few years, their value has skyrocketed. Teams that own them rarely sell. Teams that need them often cannot afford them. For RFK to pursue a third charter now signals confidence not just in finances, but in competitive readiness. Brad Keselowski confirmed that RFK is not interested in expansion unless it leads to immediate performance. This is not about fielding another car for the sake of numbers. It is about creating a competitive advantage, more data, more setups, more simulation input, more opportunities to test ideas during race weekends. But only if the right conditions exist. That is where the concern inside NASCAR began. Multiple reports indicate that the third charter is not a standalone move. It is connected to broader conversations involving Ford and potentially a significant shift in how manufacturer support is structured. For years, Ford's competitive center of gravity has rested with Team Penske. Penske sets the tone. Penske receives the deepest technical alignment. Penske is the standard bearer. Stage 60 challenges that model. Internal leaks suggest Ford has been working more closely with RFK than at any time since the early Roush Racing dynasty. Not just supplying engines or technical notes, but participating in long-term planning, discussing future alignment, evaluating how competitive power is distributed across its teams. That alone would be enough to make people uneasy. If RFK becomes a second flagship program within Ford, the balance inside the manufacturer camp changes. Influence shifts. Development priorities adjust. Competitive information flows differently. For NASCAR officials, any move that reshapes manufacturer dynamics carries consequences far beyond one team. But the charter itself may not even be the most significant part. The third car is widely believed to be tied to a driver signing that would immediately elevate RFK's status. Not a prospect, not a placeholder, a driver with race-winning credibility and championship-level experience. The identity of that driver has not been confirmed publicly, but the reaction inside the garage suggests the move would send a clear message. RFK is no longer rebuilding. It is positioning itself as a power. Brad Keselowski understands the risk of expanding too quickly. Roush Racing once fielded too many cars without the infrastructure to support them. The result was diluted performance and internal strain. Keselowski has openly acknowledged those lessons. That is why Stage 60 is conditional. Every element has to align. The charter must be competitive. The driver must raise the bar. The manufacturer relationship must strengthen rather than stretch resources. Nothing about this plan is accidental. The long silence from RFK was not uncertainty. It was discipline. While other teams leak intentions to drive market pressure or influence negotiations, RFK chose the opposite approach. No public bidding wars, no emotional statements, no forced timelines, just quiet positioning. That approach made officials uncomfortable. When teams move loudly, they are predictable. When they move silently, they are not. Keselowski eventually broke his silence not to reveal details, but to confirm intent. He acknowledged that conversations are real, that expansion is being evaluated, that the future of RFK is being planned deliberately rather than reactively. That confirmation alone validated months of speculation. The Stage 60 project reflects Keselowski's broader philosophy as an owner. NASCAR is no longer a sport where raw speed alone wins championships. It is a systems game. Engineering depth, data interpretation, simulation accuracy, organizational discipline. The teams that master those elements gain advantages that are invisible on the surface but decisive over time. A third charter accelerates that process. More cars mean more information, more scenarios tested during races, more feedback loops refined, more opportunities to optimize setups across varying track conditions. That is how elite teams separate themselves. But scale without structure fails. That is why RFK's expansion is tied to readiness rather than ambition. There is also a broader implication for NASCAR itself. If RFK successfully executes Stage 60, it demonstrates that patient rebuilding can still lead to power in an era dominated by mega teams and corporate consolidation. It challenges the assumption that only a handful of organizations can shape the competitive landscape. It also forces NASCAR to confront uncomfortable questions. How much influence should manufacturers hold? How evenly should competitive resources be distributed? What happens when power shifts quietly instead of through public conflict? Officials were not afraid of RFK adding another car. They were wary of what RFK becoming stronger represents: a team with history, a leader who understands both driving and ownership, a manufacturer willing to rebalance its support, a driver lineup capable of immediate impact. That combination changes dynamics. Brad Keselowski has never chased attention. His success as a driver came from preparation, not flash. His approach as an owner reflects the same mindset. Stage 60 is not a headline grab. It is a calculated progression. Whether the third charter arrives this season or the next is secondary. What matters is that RFK is operating from a position of strength rather than desperation. The conversations they are having are not about survival. They are about leverage. That is why the silence mattered. By the time Keselowski spoke, the groundwork was already laid. The rumors had reached critical mass. The industry knew something was coming. His words did not reveal secrets. They confirmed direction. RFK is building toward a future where it helps shape NASCAR's competitive structure rather than reacting to it. If Stage 60 succeeds, the ripple effects will be felt across the Ford camp and beyond. Development priorities will shift, driver markets will react, competitive expectations will adjust, and the quiet months before the announcement will make sense in hindsight. Because the most important moves in NASCAR are rarely announced first. They are planned in silence.